position of Magill undergraduate representative in the USASA elections will be able to stand up here, say a little bit about themselves and give you guys opportunities to ask them any questions. And for people who are out there watching me speak, feel free to come over here. There's also free pizza. And if you have questions for the candidates who will be representing you on the USASA board next year, feel free to come over here and raise your hand when questions time is open. So we've got two candidates here, Tom and Arunika. And Rosalind will be our lovely facilitator of this. So thank you everyone, and I'll hand over to Rosalind now.
Thank you very much, Bridget, and hello to the audience. Wonderful to have a couple of candidates here today. I think it's so important to get involved in the student life on campus, and it's a great breeding ground if you have the potential to be a politician in the future. I'm not looking at anyone in particular. Okay, so the way this is going to work is I am going to ask you each question. You are then going to come up to the microphone, look into the camera, and let us know your response to each question. Is there a time? No, just no War and Peace. So, just let us know exactly what you think about the questions that I ask you. And then after a couple of questions, we are going to open it up to the audience, and they might ask you some curly questions about your representation. So, we are going to go in alphabetical order by first name. Are we happy with that? Yeah? Toss a coin. Happy with the alphabetical order? Okay, so your first question is, why have you chosen to run for the USASA board? And why should students vote for you? Arunika, we'll start with you.
Hi, I feel I have chosen this position because I am pretty much involved in the uni stuff, and I think I can be the voice for the student and speak up, I think I can do for students, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Arunika. We'll have Tom.
Yeah.
Same question for you, Tom. Why have you chosen to be on the USASA board, and why should students vote for you?
Yeah. Well, I think we've seen at Magill, like last year, the thing around international relations and the cuts there, that there have been clashes between students and the university around what our education looks like, and I think with a merger process coming up, the possibility for cuts and clashes between staff and students and the university administration are really increased. So I think having activists who can be on the USASA board, who can really be a strong campaigner for student rights is really important.
Excellent, thank you very much, Tom. Question number 2. When you think about the priorities for 2019, what do you think the top 2 priorities or concerns are for students here at Magill? And what will you do on the board to advocate for those concerns? We might reverse it now. Tom, we'll start with you.
Well, as I mentioned previously, I think either the merger process or E25, seeing massive transformations, and at Magill, this whole campus is going to close, is the plan. So for students who are here, there's a massive amount that's going to face them coming from that, and I think it's what I would do is organise to have students be as actively involved in being able to campaign for their rights as possible. So whether that's being able to promote, rallies or activism that students can be involved in, or really advocating very clearly that we won't accept, any sort of cuts to the conditions and courses of staff and students.
Thank you very much, Tom. Same question for you, Arunika. What are the 2 top priorities for Magill students in 2019, and what will you do to advocate for those on the board?
So I think being an international student, I will first try to help the upcoming international student, and same as what Thomas said, that is my second priority. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Excellent. 2 very thoughtful candidates you've got here at Magill. I'm now going to open it up to our esteemed audience. Are there any questions from the audience for our 2 candidates?
Luke, Harry, do you want to introduce tables? They're running tables.
Oh.
They're doing Q&A. Oh, no. Harry, you've got one.
But can you be identified more as the Magill student rep than your actual name? We still don't know what his name is. He's just the Magill student rep.
Do you want me to ask that question?
Yes.
Okay, so the question from the floor is, can you actually be more identified as the actual student rep than you are in your own right?
Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. So hopefully, if I'm elected, I can be recognized as my name. So yeah.
And Tom?
Yeah, I'm kind of used to people just knowing me as a socialist on campus who gives announcements and does leafleting, so I think I can do a similar thing around the Gill Rep.
Okay, so any other questions?
So, as student rep, we know your information will be readily available for people to contact you. How do you feel you will deal with the angry emails that you'll get from students?
So the question from the floor was, as a student rep, you need to be accessible to students on campus all the days of the week, all the times a day. How would you respond to angry emails that you would inevitably get from a student?
First of all, I think that I have to be calm and patient for the role, so that I can reply and pretty much be patient and reply according to the day, and that's it.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Yeah, and I think being really clear that I want to advocate for students and all the rest of it. I think I'll really want to listen to those concerns and advocate for them. And I think a lot of the anger of students is going to be anger that I'll agree with, anger about sort of things that are happening to them that I can sort of hopefully campaign and advocate on their behalf. So I think that'll be part of being able to be a campaigner for student rights. Definitely listen to them.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? The question from the floor, who will you be supporting for the president role in USASA?
So for me, as we are all together as a unite group, I think Grace Dixon, I would support her for the president also.
So Grace Dixon?
Well, I'll be supporting myself. I'm also running for president, so yeah.
Excellent, so self-nomination there. Any other questions?
You said previously that you want to advocate for equal campaign campaigns for politicising the community. What are you going to politicise against? What are you campaigning against?
Okay, so the question from the floor was, in politicising the USASA board, what specifically are you actually advocating for or against? Now that was specifically for Tom, but I will give you also, Arunika, an opportunity to respond to that as well. Tom?
Well, I think the two things that would be most important for me this year would be around the issues of what our university is researching, and then also around refugee rights. So I think our university has extensive connections to weapons companies that are very political, companies like BAE Systems that work with Saudi Arabia and Israel. And I think being able to advocate that we want our university not to be researching alongside weapons companies, but things that are good for the planet and good for people, that's really important. Also, at other universities, there have been programs brought in, things like scholarships for refugees, and also offering sanctuary for refugees, similar to churches that say if people are facing deportation, we'll use some of the accommodation in the space we have to offer sanctuary and protection to people. I think that that could be something that we advocate for the university to offer as well. So I think those are some of the key kind of issues around what kind of world are we living in? Is it one that we support the companies that are creating refugees, wars and devastation that have people fleeing, or are we instead offering help and support to these people?
Thanks, Tom.
Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. Absolutely. So in terms of being on the USASA board, you often have to politicise particular issues. What issues specifically will you be advocating for or against if you're elected onto the USASA board?
So the one issue I would like to look over is that maybe the maybe the problems of the international students. So that's the thing I look after more. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
I guess the first thing I just want to ask about is that it's proposed under E25 that the campus might be closed as part of consolidating universities. I just wanted to know sort of what your guys' thoughts on that are, and whether you support that, or whether you sort of conditionally support it, or whether you just outright sort of not support it.
Okay, so the question from the floor was, there is a proposal under E25 that Magill potentially be closed. From your perspective, what is your position on that, given that as a Magill rep, not only are you there to advocate for the needs of the Magill students, but also for the university more broadly? Are you for or against that particular proposal? And what would you do if you were elected to the board? Arunika, we might start with you on that one.
I am pretty much against this thing because I feel each campus should have individual campuses, and that we are recognized for like the arts campus and the science campus. So yeah, we will try to do some campaigns so that this doesn't happen. So yeah, campaigning and hearing from other students and gathering support from the head and supervisors. So yeah.
Thanks very much. Tom?
Yeah, I'm against it too, and I think, similar sort of reasoning, but I think the fact that, like, basically having all of the students who are currently at Magill being at Mawson or City West, I have serious concerns about, the resources we'll be able to provide for them. I also have concerns around the running the, aged care teaching sort of hospital here on this campus. I know in a lot of the time that students are expected to work as placements in these types of scenarios, as nurses or social workers without being paid properly, so unpaid internships and unpaid placements. I'm a little bit suspicious of a scheme that'll be charging people money for aged care and then also having students who aren't being paid properly picking up the labour there. I think that's a really questionable scheme that I'm opposed to.
Thank you very much. Was there another question?
Oh, that was the previous question. I was sort of just more for Cherry, but
Any other questions? Okay, so I have a couple of questions for both of you. What would you say your top 3 values are, and how would you bring that to the USASA board?
Well, I guess, standing for equality, and I think in terms of how that comes in the USASA board is that, we should be fighting for the massive students and staff to have more say of what they're doing and fighting against any sort of discrimination that would exist against people, racism, homophobia, sexism and all the rest of it. Standing up for social justice. So I think that these concerns are not just something that, ends when we leave the classroom doors, that we can have a USASA that takes up, broader questions of society. And then, I think, having democracy, having the rights for students to have their say, to be able to organise, actions around whatever they want to do around campus and sort of have their voices heard, and make sure that we're not just, told what's going to happen by a university admin who then shuts down student voices, that we stand up for, our rights to campaign and be heard.
Thank you very much, Tom. Arunika?
I feel the 3 rights that should be heard is that be the voice for the student, that's what we are here for, and think for the well-being of the other students, and obviously as I'm studying sociology, be social justice for everyone and see that no one is having any other discrimination and any other problem as racism and anything. So and work for the democracy also for the role, and that's pretty much.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? No? I have another one. Yeah. Okay, so I have another question for both of you. When you are elected onto the board, you then don't just become an advocate for your position. You become an advocate for every student on the Magill campus and more broadly. What happens if you are asked to advocate for a position that goes against your personal position on a particular issue? How would you deal with that? And Luke, I might start with you.
First of all, I love to see what position is that and try to evaluate that, like ask that person who was there in that position before, like what are the pros and cons, and then I will try to evaluate accordingly. So
And would you? would you be comfortable advocating for a position that you personally don't agree with?
First of all, I will see that if that suits me and if I can take that role, then only I'll try to do that. Otherwise, no. So.
Thank you very much. Tom, did you want me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Okay, so the question is, when you get elected, you are not only elected to represent yourself, you're elected to represent every student on the campus.
Yep.
How would you go advocating for a particular position that goes against your own position on an issue?
Well, I'm very upfront in this election around what my, personal issues and principles are, and I think that that's part of having an election, is that when I get elected, the students who voted for me on that platform and to have those views expressed and heard, they have a legitimate expectation that I will continue to stand for those principles and views. I think if I was elected saying I stood for one thing and then when I get into a position I do the opposite, I think that would be a real problem. So I'm going to keep advocating, what my personal beliefs and principles are, but I'm also publicly advocating those to the students, and then they'll have a choice about whether they want to vote for them or not.
Did you have a question? Another question from the floor?
I guess I don't really know how to kind of sort of like ask this. They can get like really shoes, like am I wrong? I guess what I want to ask is how would you do things differently to what I've been doing if you sort of know what I'm doing? Okay, I'll tell you the realities. How important are campus activations to you? For example, doing stuff like a Toasty Tuesday or that type of stuff. How much do you think you'd be able to give time to every week, every fortnight, trying to do like an activation on campus?
Okay, so the question is, how important are activations on campus to you? Would you have time to give every week or every fortnight to a different activation to really enhance the experience of students studying at Magill campus? And the second part of that question is there anything you would do differently to the current Magill student reps? Tom, I'll start with you this time.
Well, I might start with just the differently thing, because I think, I'd be on the student board, I would be trying to get support for, a series of campaigns that, haven't necessarily been taken up by USASA yet. So, there have been National Union students campaigns around things like free education or against education cuts that USASA has taken up and campaigned for before. There's a series of other campaigns to do with things like, the defence industry on university campuses that I will advocate to get the USASA board to take up and make that a campaign. And I think that feeds into the activations. I think when there's campaigns that USASA is running, for students and all the rest of it, absolutely, I want to be out there engaging with students around that and using, different platforms that are available for me to be able to, get those campaigns out there, get students involved in them.
Thank you very much. Arunika.
First of all, I will try to give my best, maybe every fortnight, and the main thing is that I will try to give a survey paper or a paper where students can give their opinion every week or every fortnight, so that we can work upon that and then do it. So
Thank you very much. Any other last questions from the floor? We have a third candidate. Welcome, Cherry. So, will we go through all of those questions again? Yes. Okay, so, welcome. We have been having a conversation with the other two candidates, and we will now include you in that conversation. So, the first question is, why have you chosen to run for the USASA board, and why should students vote for you?
I chose to join USASA board because I want to practice my leadership skill, and I also want to work for students because I want to make Magill a good place for students to learn and enjoy their university life. And I'm a really conscientious and hardworking person, so you will never regret if you vote me.
Thank you, Cherry. So the second question is, when you think about 2019, you think about the priorities for students, what do you think are the two priorities for students on the Magill campus? And how will you advocate for them if you're elected to the board? No, that's fine. So if you think about 2019, What are the top 2 priorities, do you believe, for students at the Magill campus? And if you were elected to the board, how would you advocate for those top 2 priorities?
I think the first one is like the study environment. So I would like to make work with others, USASA board people and our clubs at Magill to build up a good study environment for students to know about each other, and help them with their whatever they need. If we can work on those issues, help them study better. And the other thing is I like to build up a good environment, so a social environment, so students can know about each other and they feel the sense of belongingness here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, another question we had from the floor was, there is a proposal in C25 that the Magill campus is shut down. So, what is your position on that, and what will you advocate if you were elected to the board?
That's a really good question, because I think the most important thing is not about where we are or where it's city west of Magill. The most important thing is we get the students together. If we are in city west, it's I think that can be even better, because there's a very active campus. But on the other hand, because Magill has a really good environment, we are really missed here.
Another question we had from the floor was, how would you fill Ryan's shoes? No. What would you do differently to the current Magill student reps if you were elected to the board? And in terms of student activations, what sort of commitment would you be able to make every 1 week, every fortnight? How committed would you be to student activations?
I think I will try my best to if there's a requirement, as long as it's not overwhelming, 2 days a week, that's too much for me. But as long as it's reasonable, I will try my best to make the commitment. Yeah.
And what would you do differently to what's happening now?
Oh, sorry?
What would you do differently to what's happening now?
What's happening now? I'm not quite sure what they're doing now, because I haven't contact. But I think our last Magill representative, Ren, is really good, doing the job really well. Yeah, so you can see the happy environment in Magill campus. Yeah, and I think we can work on this and make it even better place.
Fantastic. So another question we had was, often as a student rep, you are called on to politicise certain issues on the USASA board. What issues would you want to politicise if you were elected to the USASA board?
I think what kind of issue, what kind of issue I want to bring to the board. Okay. I think I might want to all the USASA clubs. We need to a class representative. We need to meet together, and we can have some Magill campus specific events. There's not much now, but I think I want this to happen. So that's what I want to bring to the board.
The other question is, who will you be supporting for the president of the USASA board?
I don't know those people yet, so I think I want to vote for someone that's really also very conscientious, who is honest. I think it's very important to be honest to build up build up our reputation. Yeah, because if there's something really gets wrong, the thing is not to hide it. It's to make it more public, so people can trust you. You are an honest person, so they won't feel if they distrust you, they might probably just a small mistake, but this really make people hesitate to trust you. Yeah, and my second value is I think it's study and work, because I think that's the most important thing in my life. And so I like to encourage and help students to study. And my third value is my conscientiousness. Yeah. Because I'm kind of perfectionist, but it's not so good for myself, but it really do for my work. Yeah, so it helps a lot.
Fantastic. Now, sometimes when you are elected to the board, you're elected on a particular platform. What would happen if somebody came and asked you to advocate for a position that goes against your own values? How would you deal with that?
I think firstly I need to know what the specific thing is. If that's against value, I probably need more communication to figure out what really the other person wants, and I can help him like in the way I can. And if that's just against my value, but not the whole board, I think I should discuss with the whole board, not just focusing on my own value.
Excellent. Were there any other questions that we didn't get to ask Cherry that we asked the other two that anyone on the floor can remember? No. Okay, so we'll open up to more questions.
Do you think USASA and Golden Keys should merge? Do you think USASA and Golden Keys should merge or play a closer role together?
So the question was, do you think that USASA and the Golden Key Honour Society should merge, or do you think they should stay separate and play separate roles? Is that just for Cherry?
No, that's
For everybody? Okay.
Or just work together rather than.
Or work together?
I definitely think we should work together, because both USASA and UNISA Golden Key chapter, we have the same target. It's that's for like benefit our students. So we should definitely collaborate. But and the other way, I thought we should join together before, but now I changed my idea, because like Golden Key is a really independent society. Like we really belong to the like international office, so like we have different funding and we have actually different activities and different aim, vision, mission. So that's why I think we should not merge, but we should definitely collaborate with each other.
Fantastic. I'm going to invite either of the other two candidates to respond to that question. Arunika?
I think that both should not merge, because both have different visions, different goals, and USASA is recognized by its own vision and Golden is recognized by its own vision, so they should not merge. So,
Tom?
Yeah. Obviously I don't think they should merge, but I think USASA is like a body that should be campaigning for all students and actually fighting, against things like corporate power in the university, against sort of inequality and stuff in general. And I don't see how that has any role with joining with something like Golden Key.
Any other questions? Any questions for a specific candidate? No. Okay, I'm going to give you all an opportunity to make one final statement. Straight to camera. Why should the student body at Magill vote for you? And we will go in alphabetical order again. Arunika, we'll start with you, then we'll go Cherry, and then Tom. All right.
First of all, as being an international student, I really should, as I'm involved in all of the uni stuff, I should really get a chance so that I can improve my scene in the campus, and I will really try my best to give my best in the campus and be the voice for other students. Yep, that's good.
Fantastic. Cherry, what will your name be on the ballot? Okay, do you want to just...
Hi everyone, my name is Siying Li. You can just call me Cherry. It's much easier to remember and pronounce. I think what value I can develop the student here at Magill is like I have lots of ideas, and really good at problem solving. So if there's any issue come to me, I'll give you an answer. And I have lots of ideas, and I can collaborate with other people to give like it's kind of because of my conscientiousness. I will give you a solution. So and the other thing is like. I'm good at communication, so I'm good at accept others' opinion, feedback. I can improve myself, improve USASA. So I think that's a key solution for how USASA board to have a higher reputation. Yeah, and I'm really experienced in leadership roles and like and organizing. Not organizing, but communication, collaborating, communicate with FM assist, USASA, and security guys. Yeah, okay, thank you.
And finally, Tom.
So I have been, and alongside the other left action candidates and activists over the last couple of years at this campus already. Last year we were able to get a bunch of students out as part of the Vote for Yes campaign and the marriage equality plebiscite. Over the last couple of years, been involved in National Union students campaigns, against education cuts and fighting for the kind of education system that we want. And I think that's activism that I've been doing outside of USASA, but I think that the USASA board and student association can also play a really important role in actually taking up these campaigns, being able to promote them to students, reach out to people. That's something that we've seen on university campuses, is that student associations can play a really important role in actually getting students involved in campaigning around education issues, around social justice issues. And when they do that, you're able to get better results both for students in terms of fighting against cuts to their courses or fee increases or cuts to funding, but also for wider issues that students care about refugee rights and about inequality more broadly in society. So that's what I've already been doing. It's what I want to bring to USASA, and I think the whole Left Action team are a bunch of activists that in their positions would be able to be a really strong voice for students who care about these issues at USASA.
Okay, so you have had the opportunity to hear from our 3 Magill undergraduate student rep candidates, Arunika Dutta, Siying Li, and Tom Gilchrist. So thank you very much for your time, candidates. Thank you to our wonderful audience, and most importantly, go out and vote, because one of these 3 people are going to be elected to be your student rep, so you may as well have an opportunity to actually decide who that is. There's also a 4th candidate, which we'll be telling you more about at some point in the near future.